Sim racers, welcome to the eRacing Association, where you have the chance to win $5,000 in one of the best tournaments in all of sim racing. Green flag in the air.
Are you ready to reach the next level of sim racing? The eRacing Association's epic Omega Cup Series lets you win big. Racing with ERA lets you compete for huge cash prizes, get exclusive merch, exclusive sim hardware pricing, and potentially turn your virtual dreams into reality. Feel the rush as you race door to door against sim racers just like yourself, all from the comfort of your own home.
Straight away, they're an idiot.
Oh, they're wrecking! They're wrecking!
Join now to get your membership and experience all of the excitement that the eRacing Association has to offer at www.eragaming.gg.
Celebration, he hangs on.
San Diego to host NASCAR, Naval Base Coronado.
When we learned it was going to be on the base, I was like, well, that's the coolest thing ever.
250th anniversary of the Navy and 250th anniversary of our country. Hands down, it was one of the best places we could be at.
Y'all the NASCAR guys?
We're here to scope out the track.
You ain't turning my runway into a racetrack.
Your best guys against mine. Winner takes runway.
Some Pokemon made the flag. Blue, red, white, and blue.
Oh shit, there they are!
Don't do it, no. Good morning, boys.
I'm tingling all over.
We have been breaking our damn backs for you to make this race possible.
Me that the annual 250 race the base weekend hangs in the balance.
See you, my review.
It's Dystany Spurlock, and thank you for joining in at Drafting the Circuit.
Hey guys, I'm Indy Next champion Dennis Hauger, and you're watching Drafting the Circuits.
Notorious, we notorious, yeah we notorious, yeah we some warriors, out here feeling glorious, yeah we notorious.
Try me, and I'll probably end up laughing cause I never back down. I'm that chick with a clean ass whip, I don't need that shit cause I got my own now. I get hungry, I get tired of fussing, fighting, guess I gotta crack down. Don't mess with me, cause on everything I'ma have to bring the whole city out. And I'll probably end up laughing cause I never back down. I'm that chick with a clean ass whip, I don't need that shit cause I got my own now. I get hungry, I get tired of fussing, fighting, guess I gotta crack down. Don't mess with me, cause on everything I'ma have to bring the whole city out.
Kimi, you look like you're on another planet today. Just how satisfying, cool, dreamy is it to win the Monaco Grand Prix with that performance?
Yeah, it was extremely satisfying. I'm very, very happy. And but I'm not only happy about the win. Yeah, I'm really happy about the weekend with how we progressed, how the team did an incredible turnaround. I have to say big shout out to my engineers, also everyone back at the factory who did also the overnight work between Friday and Saturday, because the car just changed so much and it gave me the confidence to push it.
It doesn't feel like you're kind of absorbing any pressure around you. The weekends are just going by and you're delivering. Does it feel like you're having an out-of-body experience? Just how well you're able to pull it together?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I know it's still a very long season, and I don't want to drive worrying about championship or anything else about final result. I just want to drive and I want to try to enjoy as much as possible. Every lap I do with the car, I want to develop. I want to try to every time extract more and more from the car. So yeah, I'm just trying to enjoy as much as possible the journey with the team as well.
The movie, news, television promos and trailers used in this production are protected by the Fair Use Act. Section 107 of the Copyright Act. 1. The purpose and character of the use. 2. The nature of the copyrighted work. 3. The amount and substantiality of the portion taken. And 4. The effect of the use on the potential market. Thank you.
Start your
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Drafting the Circuits program brought to you by Sinista1 Productions. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we discuss everything racing. Joining me tonight, Jess Chezrony. Jess, how are you?
Fantastic, Frank. How are you?
And good. So you spent your weekend at Gateway.
I did.
Yep, I spent my weekend on a yacht watching the Monaco Grand Prix, but I did find out that you really can't see much from the yacht.
No, the yacht's a whole different experience.
I think part of the problem might have been that the yacht was in Lake Cumberland, Kentucky, and not Port Monaco. But
that might have something to do with it.
That might have something to do with it. Okay, so we are brought to you by the eRacing Association, Grey.Universe with their film The Kaiser, Prime Video, NASCAR Race the Base, NASCAR coming to San Diego race coming up June 21st. Slingshot for Shriners coming up on August 1st. I want to thank last week's guest, Dystany Spurlock. If you didn't get a chance to watch that, she's a very interesting person there, very talented young lady, making a name for herself in the motorsports world. So how'd she end up doing in Michigan? I didn't get a chance to check.
You know, I didn't even check either. I will. We will circle back on that.
All right. So top news story. You know, it's just been a rough couple of a month or so for racing, for losing these huge names in the sports. You know, Zanardi and then Kyle Busch, and now Ned Jarrett. Ned Jarrett, a true monster of the sport there, right there. Obviously, none of us sitting here were alive to watch him race. He, raced NASCAR in the pre-modern era, which is defined as prior to 1970. But I remember Ned fondly as a broadcaster because he had a long career in broadcasting. As a matter of fact, he began broadcasting in 1960. He had a radio show back when he was still driving. So he kind of pioneered the racing podcast there, on local radio. But Ned Jarrett, 93 years old, which made him the oldest Cup champion, the Cup champion who's lived the longest. He won 2 championships, 57, 58. He won the Sportsman Series, which is now called O'Reilly's. And then in 61 and 65, he won the Grand National Series, that's the Cup Series now. But then from then, he had a long career in broadcasting, radio and television, worked for CBS, worked for ESPN. And for my money, I think the best combo of guys in the booth to call a NASCAR race was Ned Jarrett and Benny Parsons. Ned and Benny, they were just incredible. And then, of course, there was the seminal moment in 1993 where Ned's son, Dale Jarrett, was racing Dale Earnhardt for the lead. And Ned Jarrett lost all of his objectivity there coaching his son to win. He said, "Oh yeah, now don't let him get underneath you, Dale. Watch out." He said, he coined the frame. It's the Dale show, and you know which Dale I'm rooting for. And he later apologized to Dale Earnhardt for the loss of objectivity, but Earnhardt wasn't mad at him. He said, I'm a father too. If that was Dale Jr. winning the race, I'd done the same thing. So
I mean, how many opportunities would you ever get in life to do something like that? Of course,
exactly. But one of the more interesting things about Ned Jarrett that I uncovered several years ago, when I was we had the daughter of Wendell Scott was on the show. Now, Wendell Scott being, of course, the first African American to race in NASCAR Cup Series, the first African American win a race, back in 1963, although it took them 30 years to acknowledge the fact that he won the race. But that's a different story. But, Ned Jarrett and Wendell Scott had a big appreciation for one another. And obviously in the late 50s, early 60s, I'm sure that, Ned Jarrett helping out the black guy was not very popular. But Ned didn't see it that way. He saw him as a fellow racer, and Ned helped him out a ton. When he switched from Fords to Chevys, he sold Wendell Scott his 1961 championship-winning car for a steal, for a bargain. And then in later years, he went to bat for Wendell Scott with the Ford executives to get them to get him better equipment. Because he was. Poor old Wendell's getting the leftovers, and the Holman Moody and the factory teams are getting but Ned went to bat for him. And I just, find that admirable. And those guys shared a very nice friendship up until Wendell Scott died in 90 or 91. So, but anyway, the racing world will miss Ned Jarrett, great driver, fantastic broadcaster, and just all around wonderful human being. So our thoughts are with with his friends, his family, his kids, his grandkids, his folks he worked with. So, he lived a long life, 93 years, did a lot of great stuff. It was a life well lived. So we'll miss you, Ned Jarrett. So did you know much about Ned Jarrett? Probably not. You didn't probably start watching NASCAR recently, but I'm quite sure you've heard the name.
Yes, and I feel like I have seen clips of him broadcasting. I don't know if I saw that particular one that you're talking about, but yeah, it rings a bell.
Yeah, we're gonna roll that at the end of the show for our viewers to watch. So cool. Anyway, speaking of Monaco and being on the yacht in the harbor, where I was in the wrong harbor,
easy mistake to make.
Yeah, so you and I speculated last week, based on what's happened the last 3-4 years there, that the Mercedes would not be dominant. That Mercedes would probably be outshone by Ferrari and perhaps even Red Bull. And as it turned out, the Mercedes was pretty bad if George Russell was driving it. Antonelli behind the wheel.
Welcome to the eRacing Association, where you have the chance to
win. At
win.
the end of qualifying, guys like Juan Montoya and Damon Hill doing the broadcast, they're literally comparing him to Ayrton Senna already. Wow. And this is second season, 5 races in a row. Nobody's won. Their first 5 wins have come consecutively. He's first got to do 4. Now he's up to 5. He's got more than a whole race lead on George Russell, and he was literally perfect around Monaco. Monaco's a tough track to get around. Especially with the cars are larger. I mean, you saw him in some of the clips through the practices and qualifying in the race. How close they get to that wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're nearly brushing it every time. So it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of quick reaction to get around there. And Antonelli at this he's 19. 19 years old, and he's just killing it out there. It's unbelievable.
I saw a video, and darn it if I can't remember who it was, but one of them, was going through the tunnel and just very nearly got into the wall in the tunnel, and then came out and was on the radio and was just maniacally laughing Just, as if we needed further proof, but like race car drivers are just a different breed of human.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
yep,
man.
almost died. Pretty funny.
Yeah. We had a lot of penalties for pit lane violations. Mostly guys leaving the lane, and again, that's the symptoms of the cars being as big as they are and the circuit being as narrow as it is. So you got some really good guys there had their days ruined. Cadillac came really close to getting their first points, and Valtteri got penalty. So who else got Alex Albon got a penalty.
Is it for speeding or like for unsafe?
It's the unsafe blend, or some of them got speedy, some of them got there where they're getting onto the track before. So, but yeah, I didn't pay a lot of close attention to it, but a lot of penalties. A lot of guys 10-second penalty kill you on a course like that where the cars are pretty close. So. And then, of course, Verstappen didn't make the first lap. Car gave up on him. Russell had a miserable day. Charles LeClerc, native of Monaco, that's his home race, had a miserable day, which just allowed Antonelli just to open up that lead and just really kind of. I mean, the championship is his to lose at this point.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of races left, but it's his to lose. So. But yeah, unbelievable. So, did you get a chance to watch any of it? I know you were at the track in Gateway. So
yeah, I did not.
Okay,
that's crazy though. Antonelli. Well, I'm sure we're going to do our picks here for next week, and I've decided that the most surefire way to break Antonelli's streak of wins is for me to pick him. So
yeah, that's how I keep Polo from winning all the races. Every time I pick him, Alex Polo doesn't win. So we'll try that with you pick.
We'll give that a shot.
See if somebody else can win the race. And I picked George Russell for Barcelona, and Richard picked Max Verstappen. So we got the three good picks going into Barcelona. One other thing to watch out for in Barcelona is going to be Colton Herta is going to drive the Formula One car for the first time in free practice one. Throughout the year they allow the reserve drivers to get behind the wheel and do that free practice one session. So it'll be Colton Herta in the Cadillac, which and however many miles he can do, that'll actually give him some super license points, which he desperately needs because he's not really setting the world on fire in Formula 2 yet. He's 12th in points, maybe, and he desperately needs to if he wants to get that super license this year, he needs to finish in the top 4 in points. So, so
ways to go.
Ways to go, yeah. But you got to work for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. So, yeah, that's about all we got coming out of Monaco. Again, has the circuit outgrown the cars? Yeah, I think it has, but is it going to go away? No, Monaco will be there forever. It's so ingrained, it's so popular, it's and honestly, this one, even at the front of the field, it was Antonelli all the way, but through the midfield, it was actually a pretty entertaining race. It wasn't boring at all. Which is the case. It's the case in a lot of these Formula One races where, somebody goes down there, leads all the lap. That race was boring, but you're not paying attention to what's going on from like third place back. Where you got some real battles there. So, all right. So, IndyCar in Gateway, we had some weather threatening to come through. They actually pushed the race, started a little early. Caught some people off guard. Not the least of which was folks watching on television who were treated to the end of a UFL game that also went long for weather. They didn't realize that the IndyCar start had been pushed up and moved to Fox Sports 1.
Right.
Evidently, they didn't mention anything on TV, but they put it out on social. So,
Yeah, and I didn't see it. It's hard to keep up when you're at the track, but I always download the what they call the color schedule. It's the schedule of the race weekend that like all the teams get, and media gets a copy of it. And it's really like a minute by minute sort of breakdown of everything that's going on, when everybody's loading in and loading out and when the track's hot and all of that stuff, for all the different series that are racing over the course of a weekend. It's a really cool document to have when you're actually at the track. And yeah, I realized that like we were ahead a little bit. Like I pulled it up and I was like, wait, driver intros are happening and they're not supposed to happen for another 20 minutes. Like what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, they made the decision. So you figure it was the television coverage was supposed to start at 8 p.m. Central Time. And the race was supposed to green flag drop at like 8:25. But at 7:30, they made the decision to push the race up and drop the flag at like 8:03.
Yeah.
Which would be no pre-race coverage, just go right to the start of the race. And of course, the football game wasn't over, and people didn't realize they watched the start on Fox Sports 1.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer to that is when you're doing everything last minute.
Right. I mean, and look, ultimately, like that was the right call. We were able to get the whole race in, and it did start raining shortly after checkered flag, very similar to Indy. So ultimately that was the right call. I know people were upset over how that happened, and that recordings, especially if you missed the beginning. But Will Buxton posted something on X about this that I thought was really well written and really enlightening. And I hope that
the thing about the Heidi game,
the Heidi rule. Yeah. So Will Buxton said, in U.S. broadcasting, especially on Fox, there's an unwritten methodology called the Heidi rule. In fact, I think it may even be written into certain contracts, especially football. The rule is simple. We do not leave a live sporting event before it's over. And the reason is there was an AFL game in 1968 between the Raiders and the Jets, and they cut away before the game had concluded to show the movie Heidi, which I've never heard of. I don't know. Probably wasn't that good. There wasn't much time left in the game.
Disney movie.
Okay. All right.
Disney movie about a redhead girl. You might have liked it.
Oh, well, I'll have to check that out then. Wasn't much time left in the game. Looked like the Jets had it sewn up. No big deal, right? Wrong. The Raiders scored 2 touchdowns in 9 seconds to overturn their deficit and win. And the rules around live sporting events were never the same again. If you start broadcasting a game, you finish broadcasting the game. So, like you said, the UFL game also had experienced a delay because of weather. The IndyCar race got scooted up because of weather. There was that overlap, and Fox was not going to cut away from that game. What I think is also worth noting is that, we had 2 red flags. Weather did play a role in this race, and we went wildly out of the broadcast window.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty late, yeah. It was nearly midnight on the East Coast.
But you know what? Fox didn't cut away from the IndyCar race either, just as they didn't cut away from the UFL game. So, you can't have your cake and eat it too. The Heidi rule is there. It saves us sometimes from losing the end of our races, and sometimes we lose the beginning of our races.
Sometimes, I mean, it's been going on as long as I've been watching racing on TV. I remember when ABC used to cover kart, it was routine you had to watch the 17th and 18th hole of a golf match while you knew the Long Beach Grand Prix was going on. And then they finally joined the race 12 laps in. Yeah. At least now, this day and age, there's enough extra channels that you could start it over on Fox 1 and then move it over. Back then you didn't have all the extra channels. Now there's, or like me, I watched it on the Fox 1 app. So where it just starts. So there's no UFL, no nothing, because it just starts right there. So
Right.
And that
Yeah.
that was not even that expensive. So
ultimately, Fox did air all 260 laps of the race. They just weren't all on Big Fox. So, and it was a fluid situation. Like you said, they were making decisions up until the last minute, as you have to do in these sort of weather impacted situations. And, I know that everyone that was there and involved in those decisions wanted to do the right thing. And it's hard to balance that, right, between like the right thing for the people who are there on site and the people who are watching from home. There was no perfect solution, and I commend everybody from IndyCar and Fox for doing what it took to get that race in and getting all 260 laps of it on TV.
So last week when we were talking about making our picks, ordinarily we'd be jumping, fighting over getting Newgarden on a short oval.
Yeah.
But I think all of us were of the opinion that, especially after the comments he made in Detroit, that, he's still hurting pretty bad and he's not going to be 100%. And wouldn't you know it, here's the king of short ovals again.
Yeah.
Didn't dominate the race, but there at the end, when it counted, there he was. There he was in the checker flag.
Yeah. Even hobbled.
Yeah.
It's just muscle memory for him, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. Well, he won at Iowa with a broken collarbone.
Yeah.
At one point in time. And I remember there was a time Hinchcliffe won somewhere, and it might have also been Iowa with like a broken wrist. So, but we had a couple banged up guys. You got Kyle Collette with bruised ribs, Rossi still on crutches, and Newgarden, of course, got some injuries to the leg and the hand. And Roman Grosjean had to have surgery on a broken finger.
Yep.
So you got all these banged
up
guys in
wounded.
there.
I mean, they're banged up, but you know me, I never like to see wrecks. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But to have that many guys injured, sort of is an indication that like the racing this year has been interesting. As much as everybody loves to say, well, Pelot's winning everything and it's boring, like obviously there has been some action this season, or we would not have the walking wounded coming into St. Louis and putting on a show with their crutches and whatnot.
Yeah. So Newgarden for the win, much to the dismay of poor old Marcus Ericsson, who had the fastest car all day. He led
114.
He led a lot of laps,
almost half of the laps of the race. Yeah.
Effortlessly, his car was that good.
Yep.
And then of course Joseph. At the end, he didn't have anything for Joseph, and Ericsson hasn't won a race since. St. Pete 2023. So, and he certainly hasn't won a race since he joined Andretti in 2024.
Yeah.
He's in a contract year.
He is.
His only other really good finish was second in Indianapolis last year, which was negated, put to the back after the post-race penalty. So, so it was great to see Ericsson do so well, but I really wish he could have brought it home.
Well, and I think he did too. He seemed in his post-race interview to be, a little down, that like to come that close to getting back on the top step of the podium and fall short. Obviously I think that was a bit of a disappointment, but it was great to see him battling up at the front. And like you said, effortlessly, like he just really looked great. It wasn't like some of these other guys who were out there, battling the car the whole race and just trying to hang on. One of whom was the gentleman that you and I had a disagreement over last week about who got to pick for the win, and that's Mr. David Malukas. Yikes. He had a rough evening here in St. Louis. He said that they just totally missed the mark on setup. And he was struggling from the get, just trying to hang on to that car. And he said, you know, every pit stop, every yellow, they were on the radio. They were talking about what they could do with the tools inside the car, what he could do. They were talking about what changes they could make when they pit. They were, you know, taking wing out of it. And he said by the end of the race, he was just like hanging on for dear life because that was what had to happen to get any speed in the car.
Yeah.
And in that last stint, he did find a little bit and managed to battle back up into the, I don't know, into the top 10, maybe?
Maybe.
Not 100% sure, something like that. But yeah, it was a real shame. And it was odd because, like, you know, he started at the front and there wasn't ever anything like disastrous that happened, right? Like there wasn't a terrible pit stop. There wasn't like an incident on track. But all of a sudden, at some point, like me and my buddy just kind of looked up at the scoring pylon and we looked at each other and we were like, Malukas is in 13th. Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah,
So-
you see going backwards. Yeah, just dropping through the field.
Yeah.
So, and that'll happen when you miss a setup, you know, so.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I think it was a night to forget for him, which is a shame. I know he would really like to get back on top after the Indy 500, which I just happened to check my email before we came on, and I got an email from the IMS shop, and they are selling a T-shirt that commemorates the closest finish in Indy 500 history, and it's an overhead shot. I mean, I think it's you know, cartoonized, but it's an over the head shot of the two cars crossing the finish line, and then it says like 0.0233 seconds. I just looked at that. Malukas has to hate that. Right? Like, he's going to see people
And
walking around in a
Felix is buying one for every one of his friends.
Yes, and Dave's going to see people walking around racetracks from here on out with a T-shirt commemorating like the worst moment of his life. I thought it was kind of comical. I might buy one.
He needs to have Scott Goodyear give him a call.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure Scott Goodyear is the one guy that's happy that the closest finish was broken.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll stop showing that clip of him getting hit by Al Weston Jr. there, not, you know, so.
Yeah, I think this one topped it.
It did, yep, it certainly did. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the Ganassi cars, okay? Because Ganassi is generally the kings of strategy, right? So you know, they tried to do what they do best, which is stretch their fuel, and they ended up letting all three of their cars get stranded with red flags. First, it was Kevin Simpson. When the first red flag came out, Kevin Simpson ran out of fuel on track.
Yep.
So he had to get towed back, and then the red flag, so you're not allowed to fuel under red, so we had to sit and wait in the garage until the race restarted. Then they had to push him to the pit lane, get the gas and get the car started, get him back in. He lost untold amounts of time. And then the second yellow, nearly everybody had pitted, but both Scott Dixon and Palou were trying to stretch it as far as they could, and they got caught out, you know, just about out of fuel when the yellow came down and the pits are closed.
What's funny, and I don't know if the broadcast caught this, but we saw it. Dixon's team was laid out, like they were ready for him to come in.
Yeah, he had to come in that lap. So
yeah, and then
Yeah, so Dixon had to come in for what they call emergency service,
Under
which
closed
emergency
pit,
service means that you can go to the pit when it's closed. You're allowed to get 2 seconds worth of fuel. You hook it up for 2 seconds, pull it out. But then after you do that, you have to do a stop and go or go to the back of the field. This is not to mention you also still need to do your regular pit stop, because that 2 seconds ain't gonna last you very long.
Yeah,
it'll keep you running till they go green again. So Dixon did the emergency service. Palou did not. He thought he could make it, and he ran out of gas coming down the pit lane.
On pit lane, yeah.
On pit lane, which number one bottled up pit lane.
It did, and it was actually kind of scary.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know how quickly like the spotters could get on the radio to their guys to like, I mean, first even understand what was happening and then communicate to the other guys on pit lane that like, hey, you know, Pelot's out there, and he was in the fast lane.
Yeah.
And he was like just crawling, and there were a lot of close calls with guys, you know, kind of having to dart around him, and it was a little alarming. I don't know if anything came of the fact that he was running in the fast lane.
I don't believe there's any penalty because, you know, one of the effects of running all the way out of fuel and a hot engine is that the car is very difficult to start.
Right.
And then after he did coast all the way to his pit and they got the fuel in, it took them a long time to get that car fired up again. So that was enough penalty right there.
Which, if we remember back to the 2025 Indy 500, that's basically the same thing that happened to Ryan Hunter-Reay and Cusick Morgan Motorsports, right? Ran out of fuel and couldn't get the car refired at the end of the pit stop. But Pelot's team had, like, throughout the race, very uncharacteristically slow laps. I mean, not like, you know, not catastrophic, but for them, just noticeably slower laps, which was stops, which was odd, I thought.
And you know what else was odd? Andretti, who usually fucks up their pit stops, had very, very good ones. You know, I was like, Ericsson's out in 6.7, and here's Pelot pushing 9 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I'm in the bizarro world here.
Yeah, but it was very strange. Want to go back to another incident that happened earlier in the race as well. Nolan Siegel ended up in the wall, and you know, you're sitting there, you're watching it, you see a car in the wall, you clock that it's Nolan Siegel, and you think, oh, it's Nolan Siegel. Yeah. And then you see the replay, and I don't know that this one was Nolan Siegel's fault. He was Alex Pelot got a little aggressive from my opinion. I think Alex Pelot got a little aggressive and you know, really squeezed Siegel up toward the wall, and he really just kind of ran out of room. Race control did not see it that way. No penalty.
I didn't see it that way either. It's like,
was leveled.
I thought Siegel thought he had enough room. He said, I thought I left him enough room, but he didn't. He was coming down off the wall, you know, far from being squeezed onto the wall. So I would, you know, that one's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
But I would say it's more Siegel than Pelot. But obviously there's merit to your argument that it was more Pelot than Siegel, you know, so it's because it's just one of those things.
Yeah. In any case, not a typical Nolan Siegel ending up in the wall sort of situation.
He had a little help.
He had a little help. Yeah. So yeah, that was a shame. As you mentioned, I was at the race. My husband and my little boy, Asher, were also at the race, at least at the beginning. And around lap 100, Asher decided that it was time for him to go home. Now, I don't know if you've ever taken a rambunctious 4-year-old with lots of needs to a racetrack.
No, I think my kids were 6 when I first took them to the track, and it was just on a qualifying day.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm taking my daughter to her first race next month.
She's a little bit older than 4, though.
She's 21.
Yeah.
But for years and years, she said, you know, oh, whatever, you know, you go watch your race, Daddy. You know, when she was little, she would at least check on me and say, hey, is Scott Dixon winning? You know, but then all of a sudden this year, she goes, Dad, I really want to go to a race.
Nice.
You know, and I'm like, well, heck yeah. I said, Nationals coming up, we'll go. I'll take you to your first race. So,
that's awesome.
But so I've not brought the 4-year-olds to the racetrack.
Yeah, so I cannot adequately describe the amount of crap that we had piled around us thank God there were empty seats. All praise to my buddy Butch for buying, I don't know, 20 some seats in this section and then only having 8 people show up, because all of that space was taken up by Asher's crap. There's just all sorts of crap. And so Asher decided it was time for him to go home. And it took me no less than 10 minutes to get everything sort of corralled and packed up. And then my husband had taken him down. We're sitting in the 50th row, by the way. So my husband had taken him down. That's a long process. And then I'm trying to get all the bags and get everything down. And it was right around this time that Graham Rahal hit the wall. So I am like on the struggle bus trying to help them out of the racetrack without losing anything. I did drop his juice cup, which, I mean, could quite frankly have been the end of the world. I had to go back and find it. It was in the grandstands. All of this going on while Rahal's in the wall. We're under yellow for a while. Then we almost get going. Like, I think they told the drivers, you know, it was 1 to go or whatever.
Then it started to rain.
And then Kiffin ran out of fuel, like you said, on track. So then they had to come and rescue him. Almost got going again. And then it started to rain. And then the red flag came. And it was only when that red flag came that I finally got back up to my seat and sat down and had to try to catch up on all of the shenanigans that had just gone on. So
you got back to your seat just in time for there to be nothing going on the track.
Just in time. Absolutely. Yeah. But interesting too, that red flag happened right at the halfway mark of the race. And so if they had not been able to get restarted, they could have called that race official. Now, you mentioned how Dixon was on a different strategy and was running out of fuel, needed to stop. But when they stopped for that red flag, Dixon was in the lead.
Yes, he was.
If that race had not restarted, Scott Dixon would have won, but you can't call it anything other than pure luck. Of course, it ended up working out the other way for him because, you know, then he had to do the emergency service and everything. But I'm standing there looking at the lineup under this red flag going, holy crap. Like, Scott Dixon has done it again. He's just ended up in the right place at the right time, and he's going to win this race.
You know, his streak's in jeopardy. He's won at least one race every year since 2005. If he doesn't get one this year, you know, Will Power had a nice long streak going on, but I think in 2023 his streak ended.
Yeah.
He went winless that one year, but Dixon, you know, he's not at the front as often. I mean, he still plays a damn good strategy game. I mean, you still got Mid-Ohio coming up, where Dixon is the king. Dixon is the king of Mid-Ohio.
Yep.
There's a race there where he went from last to first. Which, speaking of which, is a nice segue to our next topic. Going from last to first. So, did you get a chance to watch the NXT race?
Oh, did I ever?
All right, well, take us through it, because I thought it was exciting.
It was riveting. I was actually in the pit lane for the next race, which is a fun little perk of having a credential. You can't be, you know, on pit lane when the Indy cars are on track for the race, but you can when the sports series are. So I was in pit lane, and you know, Indy Next, they don't pit. So like there's not a ton of action going on, but it's still cool. I like to sort of wander around and like stand behind the pit stands and see, you know, what the teams are, what data they're looking at on their screens, and, you know, what the strategy calls that they're making and whatever. So that was cool. I ended up standing in a spot where there was a huge video board. So I was able to see, you know, very clearly what was going on track. That race was insane. Those guys race like they have nothing to lose and everything to prove. And you know why?
That's pretty accurate.
Because they do. Yeah. You know, and I was talking to Billy Morgan of Cusick Morgan Motorsports about this, and it's just, you know, year over year, we see so few spots open up in IndyCar that if you don't finish winning or in second place in the Indy Next Championship, like you've got no chance. There's no way that you're going to move up. And so, you know, obviously, like these guys really are, like they are fighting for their careers.
Oh yeah.
And boy, did they ever on Sunday. So much action, so many times that they were like 3, maybe even 4 wide on the track. But last to first, as you mentioned, Miles Rowe, during qualifying on Saturday, had the fastest car, was an insane qualifying speed, and it ended up getting disallowed. Do you remember why? I don't remember why. Post-tech, probably?
Maybe, yeah. I know
Something.
Enzo Fittipaldi at the time disallowed as well, but Fittipaldi had an oil leak in the car,
He had a
something like
fuel
that.
leak. Yeah, yeah.
Oh no,
And
he wasn't able to qualify. They wouldn't let him qualify.
Yeah,
Rowe
that's right.
did qualify, so he must have failed some post-race tech or something.
Yeah. So he started at the very back of the field with what we knew was the very fastest car in the field. And he did not put a foot wrong that entire race. He charged through the field. Again, sort of like we said with Ericsson, like effortlessly. Like you watch some of the onboards and it just looks like he's just out for a Sunday drive. Like he wasn't even, you know, I mean, it's kind of crazy. But so where I ended up standing, I was looking at this big video board, and I could also see Miles Rowe's pit box. And there was his dad and a cousin of his. Now, his dad I have seen at other races. His cousin, I've never seen this guy before. These dudes were so hyped up about this race. Like the cousin was hilarious. Like he would make a pass and he would like, you know, he's clapping and he like didn't even know what to do with himself, and he would go marching down the pit lane and then come back and then be clapping and cheering. I had more fun watching those two guys watch the race than I did watching the race itself.
I'll tell you.
I love to see that sort of support and excitement from the families. You know, a lot of times with these IndyCar guys that come from, you know, they're not always from here, and their families are not always able to join them. And so I just think it's really cool to see, you know, that sort of support for Miles Rowe and some of the other Indy Next drivers. Miles always has a huge group of people with him, family, friends. And I just think that's awesome. I think, you know, you surround yourself with good people, you surround yourself with positive energy, and obviously good things can come of it.
Yeah, I think it took him less than 40 laps to go from, what, 25th to first?
Insane.
You know, and of course, that's a record for the Indy Next series. You know, that's the most positions gained ever in a race. So, yeah. So, and Will Buxton said, if somebody doesn't have this kid in a car for the 500 next year, you're missing out on something. Because the kid is pretty darn good on ovals.
He is.
I mean, he killed it in Milwaukee last year.
And Nashville as well.
Nashville,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also of note in the Indy Next race, our good friends Cusick Morgan Motorsports, their driver Nicholas Staddy was not able to be at the event this weekend, and so they had someone fill in for him, and his name was Youden Sandaramurthy, I think. And he has been around before, Indy Next, Indy Lights, the USF, that ladder. And he's been out of any car. He's not been racing for the past year and a half. I saw his dad during the race, and I asked him why, and he said, quite frankly, it was just funding. They just didn't have the money to go and race anywhere. So he'd been out of racing for quite a while, and was so excited to have this opportunity to get in the car at Gateway, where he had podiumed before, and to, sort of prove what he has, what he can do, and why he should be back in the series. That dude went on the wildest ride that we have seen in some time.
Yes, I was gonna say, you sure he wasn't racing motocross or motorcycles? Because he popped a
sure
wheelie.
Looked like it. He did.
He popped a wheelie and went 25 feet down the track.
Longest wheelie in history.
It was crazy.
That car was damn near perpendicular.
Yes.
Absolutely terrifying wreck. And then a very hard hit for, I believe it was De Alba that was involved in that. De Alba did squeeze Youden up to the wall. This confirmed by race control with a post-race penalty to De Alba, but it ended with then De Alba sliding across the track and hitting the attenuator, and that was a really hard hit too. And at first that was all we saw, and then you saw the replay, and it was like, oh, holy crap! Like, it was a huge incident. So yeah, really, really bummed for Youden. He was extremely disappointed to have his race end like that, and through no fault of his own. So yeah, really hope to see him back in some series at some point. He's a very talented young man. He outqualified Juan Manuel on Saturday. So yeah, just really rooting for him to find some way back into a series, whether it's Indy Next or somewhere else. He's very talented.
All right. So then the last IndyCar topic I have here on my list of stuff that I was chat is a Kyle Collette. So yeah, I mean, here's a guy, coming out of a background where, he's got no oval experience. He was very, very strong at Indy, and he was unbelievably good at Gateway. Yeah. And Gateway is not an easy track to get around. It's a little tricky. It's hard to set up for it. It's tricky, and he was right there hanging in all day long. Could have podiumed.
Yeah, he was in the top five.
Yeah, had it not been for mechanical malfunction of the car. But this guy's for real. Because I still post Indy 500. There were people that were, when they gave the Rookie of the Year to Schumacher, a lot of people said, "Oh, I wish they would have given it to Collette." Then there was the equal amount of people who said, "Why would you give it to Collette? He crashed the car that caused the red, and blah blah blah." And I'm like, okay, a lot of people have crashed a car at Indy, including people like Rick Mears and Elio Castroneves and Scott Dixon, people who are known.
Joseph Newgarden,
Takuma Sato. Guys who are known to get around Indy. So you can't fault the guy for crashing at Indy because like as the old expression goes, there's two kind of drivers at Indianapolis: those that have hit the wall and those that are going to hit the wall. Yep. But
and I mean, Indy was a shame anyway, right? Because like he made it into the Fast 12 in qualifying. Like his qualifying performance was unbelievable, and then time got disallowed or something, and he ended up having to start at the back of the field, charged through the field, was doing really well, and then had that incident in Indy. Which
caused the red. Of course, people say, "Oh, well, he crashed so spectacularly, he caused the red." I said, "No, he didn't cause the red. Race control called the red to preserve the green flag finish because we were 8 laps to the end." So
there was a ton of shit to clean up. Like his car disintegrated.
Let's not put that on Collette that he caused the red. That was a race control decision to preserve the green. Anyway.
No, and again, I mean,
if anybody still doubts his talent on an oval after Gateway, I don't know what you're watching. Right.
I agree, and to me, it's similar to Malukas, right? Like Indy was such a letdown, with such strong promise and performing so well, and then having it end the way it did for both of them. I think they both would have loved to come back to an oval at Gateway and really, just have a fabulous day and end up winning or on the podium. And, neither one of them got it done. So just a shame. Yeah. Collette was visibly distraught in his interview. And I mean, you can't fault the guy. I mean, it's just an incredible bummer. when, I mean, it was an engine failure. Like there's nothing he could
cars
do
break
about
down
that.
sometimes,
Yeah.
They
yeah.
do. Never forget Michael Andretti leading 191 laps of the 8,500 and 11 laps to go. A 50-cent part failed O-ring and ends up losing the race. So those things happen. Pardelli Jones with the turbine car back in the 60s led the whole race, and something broke close to the end. So it's an unfortunate part of racing is sometimes cars break down. So all right, so we have a week off, and then we're off to Road America.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll make our Road America picks next week. See who gets first pick next week. I think it's you actually might be.
No, I was this week. I think it's.
Oh, so it's gonna be Richard that.
Yeah.
So
no,
you can see Richard messed everything up because I had the first pick last week, but Richard picked before me because Richard does what he does. So I made him pick last this week. So.
Who makes the rules around here anyway?
Who makes the rules? Did we do our Formula One picks? Did we? We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
You're taking Antonelli. I've got Russell,
so I'm
and he's got Max. That's right.
Single-handedly break his
You're going to
streak.
make sure he doesn't win 6 in a row. All right.
Yep.
So, speaking of winning multiple races in a row, Denny Hamlin 2 in a row.
Yep.
And Toyota just rolling through this season, man. They just, I don't know what it is that they've got special this year. I guess obviously the Chevy's got some bodywork problems. The Ford hasn't had an update in a while, but the Toyota's just killing it this year. Between Reddick and Hamlin, and several of their other guys have also won races. Eric Jones won a race, and Chase Briscoe won a race. But so it's. Again, we're talking like we talked last week, and then offline, you and I, Richard, talked about, is it finally Denny Hamlin's year?
Yeah.
And interesting enough, Denny Hamlin's second win in a row comes on the same day where Tyler Reddick had his first DNF of the season. Reddick, who of course won the first 3 races outright when the season began. So it's going to be a tough battle, but with all Toyota guys up front. So. But Michigan, one of those classic, 2 mile. It's a little different. It's 2 mile bowl shaped kind of thing. It's not a tri-oval. It doesn't have a D. Doesn't have a dog leg. But it doesn't have square corners like Indy. It's a 2.0 mile true oval. Been around. They used to have great IndyCar races there, but we haven't been back there in decades. So I'd love to go. Revisit that again, but Detroit's pretty well ingrained in the calendar for that Michigan spot. But
quick side note: when you mentioned Indy's square corners, it made me think of I saw a tattoo this weekend in Gateway, and I've seen people have like the outlines of tracks tattooed on them before. Road America is a really cool looking one. What is not a cool looking one is Indy.
Yeah, it's just like a big rectangle.
Just a big rectangle on the entire back of his very large calf. I was like, that's a choice. That is a choice.
I mean, if you were to make the shape of the track and maybe put some text in the middle, put Indy 500 in there, nothing. But if you're just if you just got the track layout, I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're showing me here.
I mean, to those of us who know it though, right?
Well, sure,
to his credit, I looked at it and I knew what it was. I didn't just think, why he's got a rectangle on his leg. I knew what it was, but most people probably wouldn't. Very odd shape.
Yeah. So, so speaking of odd shaped tracks, we're off to Pocono next. And here's a fun fact: is the 3 turns at Pocono are all patterned after different tracks. The turn 1 is patterned after the turns in Milwaukee. Turn 2 is patterned after the turns in Indianapolis. And for some reason, turn 3 escapes me what oval it's but it's a big triangle, Pocono.
Isn't that true at Gateway too? that the four corners are different and they're patterned
Gateway's
after
an egg
other
shape.
ones?
Gateway reminds me of Darlington in a way, and the whole story, the legend of Darlington is that the guy was out there on the mower carving out the spot for the track, and then he kind of fell asleep and it kind of went in, and that's why it's egg shaped. Of course, that is absolutely not true. The reason that Darlington is egg shaped is because somebody owned some property there. They didn't want the racetrack to go through their property. So they kind of streamlined the track, made it a little smaller on one side than the other. So now why Gateway is egg shaped, I don't know. But I'm sure it has something to do with pattern in the corners after something or another.
Yeah, I thought it did. I'm not finding it just on a quick Google, but the corners are different at Gateway. One end is tighter than the other one, which is why you mentioned hard to set up, hard to navigate.
Oh, sure, anyways, yeah.
Go ahead.
The Pocono, of course, Rick Mears said you can't ever properly set up an IndyCar for Pocono. You could get 2 turns really close, but the third one, hold your damn breath.
That makes sense.
That's what Rick Mears said, yeah. So, but so off to Pocono. I picked Denny Hamlin from Pocono. I'm going to say Denny goes 3 in a row. Denny's got a great record at Pocono. You went with?
Chase Elliott.
You went with Chase Elliott. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard went with
Jones.
Eric Jones, right. So Christopher Bell, up in the air. I don't know if he's going to run Pocono or not. He hit the wall a ton at Michigan. As a matter of fact, if you saw the wreck there, he punched a hole in the safer barrier.
Yeah.
And they had a pretty lengthy red flag to repair that barrier. And, he messed up his hand pretty good. So
I read today, and it escapes me who it was that this report was coming from. But obviously, like they study the data on the cars, especially in the case of a accident like this that was so very dramatic. And whatever the metric is that they use to measure like how hard that hit was, they said it was the hardest that has been recorded. They don't release that information. Apparently that goes to the teams. But whoever was speaking on this said that it was the hardest hit that they have recorded. So
I guess in terms of the lateral G's, I suppose, right? That's
something like that.
How you'd measure that. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's quite obviously hit hard. Like I said, there was a big hole in the wall. So that's yeah. So
what I thought was really interesting, and I mean, again, I hate to see wrecks, but I've seen a lot of like supercuts of other drivers on boards or in-car audio, radio transmissions as they saw that wreck happen. And everybody who was behind it and saw it happen was immediately on the radio asking their team, who was that? Are they okay? Please tell me they got out. Keep me updated. Let me know they're all right. And I love that. I love to see that from
the guys in the booth said they're 7 stories up. The broadcast, 7 stories up in the tower, and they said it was loud as could be. This sounded like somebody fired a cannon.
Wow.
So we wish Christopher Bell the best.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'd be great to see him show up at Pocono, but if he doesn't make it, he's got to heal. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, hell of a lick he took.
Yeah. All
right. So got our picks in for Pocono. So we are just about out of time, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that the 24-hour Le Mans is coming up this weekend. It's a race we don't ordinarily cover, but it is, a big international race. So instead of trying to pick a driver, because you've got every team has multiple cars and multiple drivers, and sometimes throughout the course of the 24 hours, you may see one guy end up in 2 different cars occasionally. So we're just going to pick the manufacturer who's going to win. And the hypercar is the top class there. So we'll go with that. So, and you went with?
Just on vibes only, because I don't follow this at all, so I have no idea. But I went with Cadillac.
Cadillac? Yep. So I went with Ferrari based on the fact they won Le Mans the last 2 years, and I saw that they actually in the early qualifying and practice, the Ferraris are last in class. So maybe that was, but when it comes to Le Mans, it doesn't really come down to qualifying that much. It comes, more to endurance.
Yeah.
And keeping that car together for the 24 hours. Of course, the favorite going in is Aston Martin because they've been the fastest in all the early testing. But we don't know if their car. We don't know if their car is going to make 24 hours.
Right. Absolutely.
It's not. It's usually not the fastest car that win Le Mans.
Yeah.
It's the most durable one. So Richard was contractually obligated to pick Toyota. And the Toyotas look pretty good in qualifying as well. So, but you've got other teams out there, Alpine, Genesis. Who else is in that class? I think Porsche is not in the hyperclass this year, huh?
Others.
Right. So
Aston Martin, Ferrari, Toyota, Cadillac, BMW, Genesis, Alpine, and Peugeot.
Yeah. Peugeot hadn't won major race since 1913? Does that sound right?
Yikes.
All right. So I don't think it's that bad, but yeah.
I actually have a question for you.
Yes, ask away.
With the success of the movie F1 and it's still having a lot of success, do you think F1 might bring some people to check out this Le Mans race? Because as you guys know, in that F1 movie, the opening scene, he was racing at the 24 hours of Le Mans.
He was racing at the 24 hours of Daytona. Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was Le Mans.
But it's still very, very similar
it's
racing.
Still in there. Yeah.
So it might. I mean, the funny thing is Le Mans used to be one of the biggest races with one of the biggest international footprints, and lately it just hasn't been. It's more of a hotbed for technology that we're not going to see in road cars for years, if ever. But back in the Ford versus Ferrari days in the 60s and in the early 70s, Le Mans was big. But now it's barely a blip on the auto racing radar. So, but still a lot of effort goes into it. But yeah, I can see the F1 film getting some folks kind of interested in watching Le Mans. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a hard watch if you want to watch the whole thing. It's 24 hours. So
I like to try.
I watch as much as I can, tune in for a while and, then eat and tune in for a while and sleep and, so. All right. So that's the end of our show, Jessica. So I want to thank you very much. Richard, I want to thank you. He's in Chicago testing. I wasn't sure if he was testing Goodyear tires or if he was checking out hot dogs to see if Chicago dog is better than New York dog, because he seemed
Thank him for what? Why are we thanking him for anything?
I'm thanking him for leaving us alone to do the show for a couple of weeks because it's been pleasant.
It has
without his smirkiness.
Oh
man! Thanks, Sinista1 Productions, our fine producer, Mr. Keith Hayes. Thanks to the ERA Racing Association, NASCAR on Fox, Prime Video, Grey.Universe with their film The Kaiser, and Slingshots for Shriners. Thank you to Facebook, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and wherever else you get your podcast. Find us on X. One thing.
We did not circle back to the ARCA race in Michigan, but Miss Dystany Spurlock finished in 13th. Notably,
that's pretty good. That's
just
pretty
ahead
good.
of Cletus McFarland. So, congratulations, Dystany Spurlock.
All right, Dystany Spurlock. Yeah, that's great. Third. She said she never raced a super speedway before, so yeah, good for her. So, yep, that's a good way to start her super speedway career. Keeping the car together to the end of the race and being really close to the top 10. So, all right, so that's all the time we have. We'll have in a couple of weeks. We'll have Jesse Iwuji back on the program to talk about that San Diego race. And here coming up in a couple of weeks, haven't firmed out a day yet, but we'll have Enzo Fittipaldi on the show as well. So, and just kind of get to the bottom of that family connection, because there's so many Fittipaldis out there. But yeah, I think I've got it all down. But I run it by Enzo when we have him on, make sure I got it all right. You know, who's cousin, who's uncle, who's dad, who's grandpa. So
draw us the family tree, please.
Yes. Yeah, but you know, he's got an uncle that also races, you know, little Mo. His uncle is younger than him. So you're
so weird.
Yeah, that's
that is so weird. Yeah, but Enzo was one of a handful of drivers that took a few minutes with my little guy Asher this weekend at Gateway to chat with him and take a picture. Also Temet Kaharchek. Got to spend a couple minutes with him. David Malukas, obviously. My boy Connor Daly was there on Saturday and got to see him. So, not that any of them are probably listening, but shout out to the guys who get it and know that the little kids are the future of the sport, and we got to hook them as early as we can. So appreciate it.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Until next week, enjoy the races. I'll talk to you then.
The closer he can get the bumper to the back of Dale Earnhardt's car, the looser Dale will get. There he comes. It looks like he's driving up under him. Earnhardt's car got loose and slid up the racetrack.
Dale Jarrett seeking in. They touch. They come back to the line. White flag. White flag and 1 lap to go. Earnhardt coming back on the outside. Bodine gets into it. Strickland gets into it. This is the finish.
Did we say 5 cars had a shot at it? Get ready, because it's coming to the wire. There's Jarrett in front.
Jarrett pulling back in front. Bodine comes down to the inside. Jeff Bodine, the 86 champion, trying to find some room.
Come on, Dale. Go, baby, go. All right, come on. I know he's got it to the floorboard. He can't do any more. Come on, take her to the inside. Don't let him get on the inside of you coming around this turn. Here he comes, Earnhardt. It's the Dale and Dale show. It's become off of turn 4. You know who I'm pulling for. It's Dale Jarrett. Bring her to the inside, Dale. Don't let him get down there. He's going to make it. Dale Jarrett's going to win the Daytona 500. All right. Oh, look at Martha. Oh, dear. Oh, can you believe it? Way to go.
Hey.
Man. Did I teach him to drive that race car? Oh, man.
Thanks for watching Drafting the Circuits. Make sure to follow Drafting the Circuits on Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube. Drafting the Circuits is a Sinista1 production.